BTB listeners, thank you so much for checking out today's episode. Listen, if this episode inspires you, do me a favor, take 5 seconds to shoot me a like and subscribe to the podcast. There are several more exciting guests that are in the pipeline, and I just can't thank you enough for your continued support, and let's keep paying the mission forward. In today's episode, I interview Colorado tennis icon Beau Berglund. He represented Cherry Creek High School during the late 90s and early 2000s as arguably one of the best high school tennis programs in the nation. He led his team his senior year to a state championship and was responsible to multiple individual and state championships as a team throughout his decorated career. We discuss the highs and lows of his tennis career, his accomplishments both in high school tennis and LMU, having 25 singles victories his senior year. After college tennis, Beau embarked on an outstanding career as an actor, where he played the role of a detective on television shows like Law and Order Special Victims Unit and True Detective, and also roles at the New York Theater. Beau also is an inspiring tennis coach. He's helped the Southern California community over the last 2 decades, helping players become the strongest version of themselves. And I can't wait to get into his story.
Don't be afraid of the dark. Be careful with stars. Not every light is gonna guide you, baby.
Welcome to the BTB Project, designed to empower listeners to identify their why and to live their best lives no matter the circumstances. My name is Kollman Gearhart, a former athlete and motivational coach. I've had the opportunity to inspire thousands through my story and help accomplish what they are built to be. You'll be encouraged by each and every episode, and let's get into it.
Yeah, when I blow up, I'ma soar high like Peter Pan. In real life, be living out my dreams. If I'm waking up, it's in a foreign land.
The BTB Project has had several opportunities to have the project be full circle. And today's guest is not only one of the biggest influences in my life, he's one of the most decorated Colorado high school tennis players. And not only has he had success in his homeland of Colorado, but he's a former Division I college player at LMU. He's a profound actor. He's giving back as a tennis instructor. And I cannot wait to get into his journey and how he will inspire you as the listener. Mr. Beau Berglund, welcome to the BTB Project.
Thanks for having me.
I want to start right out of the gates. Your influence and your direct influence on me. You were part of a high school tennis program that at one point was featured on Sports Illustrated and was known as maybe one of the most successful high school athletic programs in the nation. When I say Cherry Creek High School and Beau Berglund, what did those 4 years mean to you?
Wow, it sounds cliche, but that's growing up combined with a couple of years in college as well. It's just the age when you're finding yourself as a person in high school. I think identity was hard for me. I feel like for me, and I think a lot of people feel this way, I was really insecure, and tennis gave me a lot of validation. That's why I was so dedicated to it too, is because it's kind of the thing I had to make me feel good about myself. And I think in high school, I was a little bit of a follower. I cared a little too much about being cool. And if I could do it all over again, I would just not worry about that and just be friends with the people that are really my friends. And that's part of growing up too. I think on the tennis team, I definitely felt a sense of belonging and a sense of leadership. And I think I'm so glad I was part of that team. And it was all about being on the Creek tennis team, even when I was in middle school. I was at a smaller middle school, and my parents were like, where do you want to go to high school? And I'm like, I want to play on the Cherry Creek tennis team. So that's where I want to go to high school.
It definitely seems like a environment, that Greenwood Village area, that just bred and encompassed tennis a way that I never thought would be possible. And me growing up, and where our dots connect is here I am about to enter high school. I have an older brother that played tennis. My dad played college tennis at CSU, and my uncle played at U of A. But I was in nowhere near shape or form ready to take on a program like a Cherry Creek. I was new to my game and didn't pick it up till I was 14. But I remember being asked by one of my friends to go check out this Colorado high school state tournament down at Gates Tennis Center. This was back in, gosh, like 98, 99. So right in the middle of your high school career. And I just remember being in that environment on the last day and seeing those giant trash bag size warm-ups you guys would wear for Creek and watching you guys hoist individual and team state championships. So when you're talking about the history of the program and how it influenced you being a part of it, did you ever think how many people that it would indirectly influence because of the success you guys had as a team?
Ooh. Well, I do think our presence, when you mentioned the state championship at Gates Tennis, here, our presence was definitely felt at the state tournament. Everybody was gunning for us. I think people like to be like mad about how good we were and stuff, but you have to admit we made it interesting. Everybody had an enemy, and that was us.
Yep.
It's like you watch a movie and you could dislike the villain, but without the villain, the movie wouldn't be interesting. And I think we were the villain to everybody else. And I remember like the Regis team, they really thought they had a chance. They had a deep team.
Yep.
We knew Brent Miko was going to lose to Chad Harris. There's no way he's going to beat Chad. There's no way anybody was going to beat Chad except maybe weak him.
Yep.
And Bart Scott was 4A. So everybody that had a chance to beat it was any. And I could take a stud off Chad, but I never believed I could really go the whole way. Aside from that, they had a deep team. So I remember they rolled up in a limo. This was my first year going to state championship.
Yeah, you just did?
Yeah, they rolled up in a limo. Like their parents wanted to maybe give them the confidence or something. And they took a couple. They won a couple. I think they won one at 2 doubles or something. They won a 1 or 2. Like we didn't get them all because in Regis and Wheat Ridge was good sometimes.
Yep.
But J.R. Hagan, who was our captain my freshman year, was just like, we're all going to play Queens I Will Rock You on loud, and we're going to drive in together. And so we all drove in together to the parking lot playing. And as a kid, that's just fun. It's just fun to do that. Our impact in terms of that, I think there was definitely a culture and a climate to high school tennis in Colorado. And that culture was based on beat Creek.
Yep.
That's our influence. I think that gave everybody else a goal and it gave us a goal. Our goal was to not let that happen.
When it comes to history and obviously what you guys did, it's nothing borderline of extraordinary. And I want to get back into what you were able to accomplish as a high school tennis player. But I'm curious, from a Colorado tennis native myself, I'm always wondering, how did things start for you? For me, tennis was the only sport that I could beat my brother in. He'd beat me in everything else. And all of a sudden I found a way to beat him in a set and I fell in love with the game. When did tennis start for Beau Berglund?
It's similar to that with my brother. If you know my brother, Brett, who also excelled in tennis quite a bit and then baseball. On many levels, maybe I'm not giving myself enough credit here. Brett's just a better athlete than me. He's taller than me. He was equally as quick as me. Maybe my hands are quicker at the net. Who knows? I'm not giving myself credit. So he was better at everything else than me, except I was pretty good at tennis. I still don't know if he would have trained tennis full time, if he would have beat me. I think at some level he quit tennis maybe because he wanted me to have that. And then that became the thing I was better at than him. I even played him in high school once. And I only want to break a set, even though I only practiced tennis 3 months a year and I was playing year round. I just had to get the ball back. It's not like I outplayed him. I think there was definitely for me about identity and something I could be good at. My dad was a really good tennis player. He was a 4-time high school state champion.
Wow.
In the 70s. And I bet he'd be happy to talk to you, Kollman. But so it was about like, I felt good about myself. I could maybe follow my dad's footsteps. I wanted to win state like he did. And at Cherry Hills Country Club, where I grew up playing, God, Jared Harbaugh and another guy, singles on varsity. They were my senior. I was never on the team with them, but I would see them playing. They were so good. There was like this mythical image of them, like when I was in 5th grade and they were in 9th grade and they were on the Creek varsity team and they're hitting the ball so well. I'm like, I want to do that. That's where I'm supposed to go. So like that was implanted in me pretty young.
Obviously, again, the community history of tennis, Cherry Hills and Jared Harbaugh, those are just names that I knew. And it's fascinating to hear that they were such an influence on you and obviously your brother and that connection. And and the opportunity you guys got to play in high school is really, really special. So when it comes back to your high school career, and let's just start at your freshman year, you enrolled in the high school, you got the 160 some odd guys trying out for the team. What was it like to take the courts for the first time in the fall, knowing that you wanted to represent this program at the highest level?
Well, first of all, the Cherry Creek High School tryouts is a rigorous experience and a fair one. And from seeing other high schools in this area and where I live in Southern California, I really appreciate the way it was set up. There was like almost 200 players that were trying out for the team.
Yeah.
And Kirk and whoever else had developed this bubble system. I think because I was a ranked player, he started me around 30. Like he didn't make me start from 200. And I could only challenge guys within 5 or 3 or 5 or something like that in front of me at a time. And once you beat a player twice, they're not allowed to challenge you again, but you have to accept the challenge.
Okay.
So even Chad Harris had to accept this challenge from me, from Greg, but certainly because we had a chance maybe. And then he had to accept a challenge from either other guys lower on the team within 5 spots. You got to show up. You got to win that match. I remember John Lee almost beating me one time. Maybe because I let down, he started playing well, and all of a sudden I'm in a 3rd set tiebreaker against someone I would normally beat. That's challenge matches. And that was like my 2.5 week of play. I was tired. So that was something. And there's a lot of players I had to beat in close matches. It's from JV on, everybody is taking tennis lessons. Everybody has strokes. And I remember coming in a close loss I almost made 3 singles my freshman year. I was the number 4 on the ladder. And with an upperclassman, I think his name was Chris. I got to remember these guys' names, but Chris. And I maybe should have won. It was close. I remember losing 3 set matches to him. I won one of them. And that's when I was 4. And then I doubled up with Craig Alpert.
Gotcha.
Played doubles my first year. It's important people to know, like I was a top Division I player and I played doubles my first year of high school. And there was this choice in 8th grade too. Like I almost went to Littleton. My parents talked about it. You could go play number 1 there.
Yep.
You could be the number 1 singles player. But I wanted to go to Creek.
Knowing that a guy like Chad Harris and Greg Alpert, there's just so many legendary names that got to be part of that team with you. But I'm just curious, what is it like when the top 3 or 4 guys at Creek are going at it in a challenge match that probably is maybe just as stressful as competing for a state championship?
Certainly, like my senior year, when Greg beat me out for 2, our 3 matches that we played were really tough and competitive and flip-floppy, and it was a very competitive situation. But once it's done, the rules are the rules. I lost. That was it. We moved on. We got together as a team after that. But at that year at the Intermountain section, Greg was the number 7 ranked player. I was the number 8 ranked player. Chad was number 1. But we're also 8 of the top players in the section. Both of us went to nationals. And I remember his dad, talking to Greg's dad at sectionals that year, and he was like, the real match this fall is going to be between you and Greg. You know that. I'm like, yeah, I know.
So,
and Greg and I have such contrasting games. It was going to be, I come to that in volley or he passes me. It was Rafter Agassi.
when you think about it, that freshman year, I find it fascinating that you and Greg, here you are battling it out in tryouts, battling it out in Intermountains, and then you guys become partners. What was it like becoming doubles partners with one of the guys that you had a big rivalry with?
Oh, I think that was fine. We have so much fun playing together. He lives in LA now. He's been inviting me to play padel with him. I'm like his ringer. He wants me to come and he's got this idea. We're going to just squash punch guys at padel. There's this padel leagues. That's still on our list of things to do. I have so much fun playing with Greg. I don't know. We just both love to talk trash to each other and then about our opponent. And we had some great doubles wins at nationals. We beat Chad in double one time.
Wow.
Chad and Mike Sperry in a 3-set match and an Intermountain tournament. I think it was at Creek at like the John Cox Memorial Tournament. And we kept the balls. I have them. And we rode on Sharpie the day Chad went down. We were so psyched to at least beat him at doubles.
Oh, man.
So yeah, Greg and I have a great time playing doubles. Maybe it's one of the most memorable experiences about playing high school tennis. Not only on the team, but even because we played doubles that year, our freshman years, we both excelled as singles players later in our junior years. Like just playing on the national stage, we played doubles together at nationals. And we traveled together, and he was my go-to partner at sectionals. A big piece of that was that we got to play our freshman year, that we were teamed up.
And what was the result of that first year playing for the high school team?
We won. We won state at 4 doubles. I think we had one 3-set match. We pretty much just squashed everybody, I think.
Okay.
But there was one match where I just think we were just being stupid because we're bored, because we're so much better than everybody else at number 4 doubles.
Yeah.
I think we didn't gel right away. I think that's why we were number 4, not number 1 doubles or 2, because we weren't communicating well at first. We were fighting amongst each other, and so we weren't as good, and we figured it out. So I think we just had to just stay focused and just play our game and stay. There was maybe 1 or 2 teams that could, if we don't focus and we let down a little, now we have trouble. But I don't remember that being, I don't think it was too difficult, but we had to make sure we focused and took care of business. For everybody else, we were pretty stacked 2 players to be a 4 doubles team.
Well, I was going to say, being a high school tennis coach myself, Beau, I'm always looking at doubles teams as like there's schools out there like a creek that have 4 doubles lines that at any given week could play number 1 for their team.
Sure.
So to have more one double lines all the way down, that's why you guys are having the success that you have. But going into year 2, I believe that doubles was not part of your forte anymore, and you cracked the singles lineup. Can you chat about that sophomore year?
Yeah, sophomore year was awesome. I made 2 singles that year. And that was a year even more than my senior year, because I was only pushed that one time or a couple times my senior year. But at 2 singles my sophomore year, I was constantly pushed. There was no guarantee I was going to win that tournament. I had lost to Tharso Bossolini, this exchange student playing at Overland.
Yep.
Who was like a close number 2 to Brent Salazar. Like him and Brent were both, he could be a number 1 somewhere else, right? And so I lost to him in the main season. I had lost to some other guy from, I just remember some in like this 3 state tournament sectional. I had lost a match. I had lost to Greg Murray at Regis, who made a big moment out of it. He like took his shirt off and hit a ball in the parking lot. And I had practiced with Greg growing up. So I had some losses. And I was maybe the top seed going in the tournament. I remember the Cherry Creek coach the CU coach came to watch me play my sophomore year, or that was a senior year. Never mind. That's a senior year thing. Anyway, that was one of the times, but I was pushed a lot. So going into the tournament, there was no guarantee. Like from quarterfinals on, I was in tight matches. And I beat Tharso in the final, and it was like 7-5, 6-3 or something, and I played extremely good tennis. That's definitely a memorable match for me. I remember the court I was on, the second court of Gates.
Yep.
And I really outperformed them that day, and that's a great feeling when you come through at the right time. If I had to pick a time to beat him, even if he had a winning record on me earlier in the season, that was the time.
And it always just seemed like, Beau, when you guys as a team, whether it's showing up with the "We Will Rock You" music or just the persona, I always felt like Gates Tennis Center was a place where psychologically people who weren't Creek were losing to Creek before the match even started. And when I say that, and just when it comes to the culture and the environment and the scene, what does it mean to you to think back to those 4 years that you got to experience creating that type of dynasty when you were taking the courts in tennis, man?
I'm just really lucky. It was really fun. We had a really good camaraderie. I think almost like the mystique gave us this extra belief in ourselves. And it just goes to show that's part of success in life too. You got to really see yourself there. You got to believe you belong there. It's probably something I should continue to take into my work as an actor too. When I get on set with these big people, it's like, I'm big too. That's it. You have to project that. I think that's when there was an expectation. I didn't feel it as pressure. I felt it as fact. And that is I wouldn't borderline like cockiness, but a high level of confidence as a team, and that we were going to get it done. And I certainly remember some matches where I don't think that we had business winning the match. Not to insult Greg, but he was losing this match to Mario Gagliardi once. And when I was injured my junior year, so I was watching with
Air Academy. Is that right? Is he down south in Colorado Springs?
He's from Pueblo, I think.
Pueblo.
But he's a good player. And it was at 2 singles because I was injured that year.
Yep.
And what I remember watching, and Greg was losing, but like the Creek crowd just got behind Greg. And he just something in him changed. Like he decided he had to win. I think he was being outplayed, and then he just came back and won somehow. I remember a match with Brad Farber too, where he did that. And it doesn't always happen, but certainly it was fun.
So if you had to put the package together of your high school tennis career, even junior, senior year, what you've been able to accomplish, what's the moments, Beau, that you're most proud of?
Well, on a personal level, I think beating Tharso Bosselini is the reason I remember that name.
Yeah.
My second year for the title was a really good match. And I remember, I think, pulling through against Bobby during that challenge, Bobby Rasmussen in my senior year. I really dodged a bullet. He was outplaying me the whole match. It was maybe on serve 4-3 in the third set when I started staying back, and he self-destructed a little for me. He was playing really well that day, and it was hard for me to, especially as a young tennis player with a bigger temper, like to beat him 6-0, 6-0 2 weeks before, and for him to be a totally different player that day with the expectation to me win state at least at 3 singles. I didn't even beat out Greg for the 2 spot. And so I was not to sound arrogant, but I was embarrassingly at 3 when I just think I deserved to be 2, and I messed that up. And I just beaten this guy, and I was much bigger favorite that year than the year before. That one guy I played in the final, this guy Jordan from Boulder High School, he had taken a set off me, and I beat him in 2 sets in the final, and that was good too, just to prove a point. But that to get through that match was a good memory, and I still sigh thinking about it. Like I'm so lucky I got through that and won that match. I never had to play Bobby again after that. It'd be interesting to see what happened.
I was fortunate enough to have Bobby on the podcast. He was an incredible inspiration to me, Beau, since we were the same age, and he would always get me in Intermountain sectionals, and he was in the same conference for high school in the Continental League. So Ponderosa would always see him and guys like Mark Whining, but a tremendous competitor, good career at Santa Clara. Good buddies with Matt Phillips, who went to LMU.
We played Santa Clara. He had to play Matt like several times in college. I was a little higher on my team. I was 3-4 singles. He was 5 singles at the time. So I didn't have to play him. I wish we would have played as both like a little more grown adults to see who would have really won. Because he was a freshman when he almost beat me.
Yeah,
I had an advantage in terms of pace on my ball and being a little more grown. But in college, we would have been a little more even, and it would have been interesting to see what would have happened.
and speaking of college, Beau, here you are as one of the most decorated high school tennis players in Colorado, and this recruiting journey starts. You obviously want to play at the next level. I know you ended up at LMU, but I'd love for you to share that journey of some schools that you were looking at. And was LMU always where you wanted to go, or were there some others that were high on the list?
No, LMU came late in the game, meaning like the game starting summer of junior year when I went to national tournaments. I had a really good showing at national clay courts. I beat this guy who was 70 in the country.
Wow.
Put that in perspective, Corey Ross was 70 in the country. So that was like beating Corey Ross, level of player. Demisa Robinson, I beat him in front of the Indiana coach. So the Indiana coach had me on his radar. I liked that. I liked the idea of going to IU, the big school, the sponsorship. I went to a recruiting trip to Oregon as well. At Kalamazoo, I lost in both rounds. I think the Indiana coach was looking for a better showing. So I went to the lower on his radar after that. He didn't offer me a recruiting trip that soon. And so later he did. So it was a whole thing. I took a recruiting trip to Oregon. I liked it. The coach didn't quite know if I was going to play singles or not first year because they had a deep team. They're a top 30 team. But he's like, he definitely saw me in the doubles lineup, obviously because of my volleying and stuff right away. Him and this other guy, Chris King, he didn't know who would win between the two of us. I went there. I went to the Texas Christian coach who'd recruited me, became the coach at Northern Illinois, which was like a lower team. So he flew me out there, and he was a cool guy. And at the time, I just couldn't get past how nothing that town was in Northern Illinois. And then also just their indoor facility was a basketball court. You didn't have the facilities yet. I couldn't get past that, although I really liked the coach. That was a tough decision. Oregon was a really tough decision. To beat a Duck would have been a lot of fun as a tennis player.
Yep.
And then Indiana coach did offer me a recruiting trip later when I was about to sign with LMU. Now, where LMU came in is a friend of mine, another high school tennis player, Mike Cameron, was already at LMU.
Okay.
I was like, almost like He's on the team, maybe not on a full ride, but he was like playing 6 singles that year. And his parents said, you should they recommended it to me because I was figuring out what to do. Also, I struggled with academics. I have ADHD and I had maybe a 2.7 GPA. LMU had a smaller class sizes, and that was important to me, just being intimidated as a student. And I looked at some smaller schools for that reason. So the LMU coach, funny, Chad Harris helped me get into LMU because
Oh, wow.
the LMU coach came to a regional tournament in Las Vegas, like an Intermountain section that I was playing, that Chad was at too. And Chad was the 1 seed. I was the 2 seed. That year, there's a player named Ben Regan, who was like a ranked player, who I beat in 3 sets at sectionals, but then I routed him. And I think maybe I was 3 seed. I'm not sure. I played Chad in the semis. I beat Ben handily. And then I had like a 6-4, 6-4 match. I think it was like a break each set match against Chad that I lost, but I played really well. And the coach was there and he saw me serving and balling and doing all this stuff. And he had all these like German guys on the team that were like clay quarters. And he's like, we need volleyers on this team. He saw me do it so well and almost beat Chad. Chad's getting top 5 in the country at that point, top 10. So the LMU coach really fell in love with me after that. He was all about it. And so he was offering me the best money he had. I think I started with a 3-quarter ride in my first year. And he got me on a recruiting trip out to LMU and just the small class sizes and the beautiful campus. The fact that at the time I still wanted to go pro at tennis. And being in LA was going to be more players there, more pro tournaments. I could play men's opens and things. And maybe deep down, knowing that I loved acting too was part of going to LA when I made that choice.
Well, it makes 2 of us when it comes to the student hardships. I got dyslexia myself, somehow stumbled my way through high school and ended up taking a gap year because my ACT score was so low that I couldn't get into any of the schools to be academically qualified to play tennis. So I took a gap year, went to Arizona, went to a tennis academy that was actually suggested by a former Cherry Creek player, Paul Benzinski, and trained there.
Good academy.
13 months. It's called the Wigwam Tennis Academy in Litchfield Park. And lost 100 pounds in 13 months and then walked on. And that's how I got to Northern Colorado. And it's interesting to hear your recruiting journey because having former teammates like Chad to help with putting in a good word and things like that.
To be honest, having Chad to try to beat made me better. Everybody wanted to beat Chad. Yeah, I beat him in my dreams. Sometimes I'm at his house. I think he's got a good house. He works for Apple now. So I'm in my dreams. I'm like, I should tell Chad. I'm at like his house, at his tennis court, at his mansion, and I win. Like close, but like I get to win. But I know it's never going to happen. But that pushed me so much. He's also such a good example. Chad is such a great guy. It was such a good example. Such a good leader. Early in the morning with his dad or whoever else. Yeah. He would show up to high school practice. He has me and Greg to practice against. We're not low level by any means. We can push him and help him get better. But he was like already done. He was like, bro, what do you need? What do you need to do? You want to do cross courts? You want to work on your volleys? Like almost every practice, it was like about what we needed to work on. He was there to be sparring partner for us. He had already done his practice that morning before school.
Jeez. That's amazing that to have that influence around, but too, like you're actually onto something. I know that you visualize beating Chad in your mind, but to be honest, if you don't have that mindset of being able to think that you can beat anybody, that's where all of the psychological warfare, insecurities, and self-doubts can creep in. So when it comes to that mindset of thinking you can, like, where did that come from? Did that come from when you were able to finally do well against your brother, or how did you instill that mindset? And
well, actually, I know exactly when I started to believe I could be at the top. I got a win on Bart Scott, and I came close to Corey. I believed I could beat Corey. I believed I could beat Chad finally. I never got the chance to, but I had some big wins. It came basically, I went to this tournament in Arizona. We went to a couple like these national tournaments, Copper Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, few tournaments over one Christmas. My sophomore year, one holiday and New Year's. And I wasn't looking at the draw. I think my Dan Gonzalez had told me, or my dad had said, both of them probably, don't concern yourself with who you're playing anymore. I don't want you to talk about it. And I remember Greg would always want to talk about it. I love Greg, but I'd be like, Greg, shut up. I don't want to talk about whom I play.
Gotcha.
And I heard that this guy on tour does this. The lefty from France does this now. He didn't even know he was playing Djokovic till morning of at the Australian Open. Anyway, so I didn't want to know who I played. And I beat this guy. He was from Amarillo, Texas. And he was good. But I played good. I played really good. Like one of those good practice days where I'm like, and I played good. And then I found out later he's got a win on Chad. He's got a win on Brent Salazar.
Wow.
So then I started believing in myself. But it wouldn't have happened if I knew he had that win before I played the match. So one thing I tell my players as a coach is if you want to find out if he's left-handed so we can practice your return to serve, so we can warm up your return to serve so you don't like just lose the first set not being able to return to serve or something. Yeah. That's the only reason. And otherwise, who cares who you know? You're gonna start the match and have to figure out how to beat them the first few games anyway. And it's better not to know about it so you don't psych yourself out about it. There's a lot of psyching out that goes on. I just think that the best thing players can do, and that's what happened for me, is just not talk about who's who and who's the number one seed, and not want to know, and not even know if you're seeded. Man, I knew the first time I was a number 1 or 2 seed at a tournament, that was a trip too. And better not to know, or not to know as much as you can, and just go out there. Every opponent's the same. And equally, you can know you're supposed to beat a guy. I remember letting down and losing some really bad matches against guys that had no business beating me because I thought, but they come in believing they can beat me, and I go in thinking I should beat them, and I underestimate them. So
the ability to have positive mindset usually creates positive outcome. But speaking of positive outcome, I want to draw a circle around that senior year at LMU. You set some history with your match record, and I just would love for you to share how your progression led you to have such an extraordinary senior year.
Okay, first of all, you got to realize our team is a lot like being at Creek. We had 4 players on our team who probably could be the number 1.
Wow.
And I was playing 3 and 4, and that's because I was the only upperclassman, and I was the most mentally tough player at the time. At the time, I was upset about it. I wanted more chances to play 1 and 2. A guy named Nico Terrien from France was playing 1, and Mike Winard, which was playing 2. I was playing 3 a lot. And my coach wanted me at 4, but I started winning at 3, and I wouldn't let him move me down. Because I'm more of a guarantee. Because I was a little more mentally tough than the other 2 guys, as being a little older and more mature as a player. But nonetheless, it's still tough players at 3. I think midway through my season, I wasn't doing that well. Had a losing record. I think a lot of my 25 wins came at the end of the season after this talk I had with my dad. I was upset about it, how much I was losing. And my dad just reminded me, you got to just go for broke. He's been teaching me this my whole life. I remember he'd been teaching me this one time I lost this guy named Keffer Rupp in juniors I wasn't supposed to lose to him, but he got this reckless abandonment in him. He just got mad. He started hitting winners. So my dad was always preaching me this, like, you got to have that reckless abandonment. You got to have that go for broke feeling. You can't be trying to win so bad or not lose. You have to just hit the ball good and go for it. You got the shot, you take it, you go for broke, was what he told me. And I started doing that. I started approaching every match with, man, I might lose, but I'm not going to lose because I played afraid. I'm going to win or lose playing courageously, which doesn't mean stupid shots either. It just means I'm going to go for good deep balls. If today my balls are going 1 inch out, I lose. I'm going to hit the ball though.
Yep.
And that, I had some close matches, but I definitely remember going about 13 or 15 and 0.
Wow.
I had been winning so many matches that when we played the conference championship, which was my last match, we lost to Santa Clara that year in the first round in a tough 4-3 battle. My match was still going on, and I was down a break in the third. The guy was up 4-2. But all my teammates were like, no, we knew you were going to win that one, Beau. All of them fully were like, I didn't know for sure. But they all knew, because that's what you do. You don't try to get you cocky about it. They knew I was going to win that. I'll take it. Because the match ended in college. Once someone wins 4-3, the match is over. So it stopped at 4-2 him, me down a break. But that was definitely awesome to go out like that. I'm very lucky to have that kind of a run at the end of the senior season at singles and at doubles too. We played well.
I find it fascinating that here I am making my way into Northern Colorado and actually getting to cross paths with you your senior year when you guys came out to Greeley to play a match. I'd love for you to talk about that moment.
I remember now because I was like, I remember because I was like, who is that? You knew me. You're like, oh. And I remember that almost threw me because you guys were playing really well. I think you beat us. It was 3 doubles, me and Carlos, and we lost that doubles match. I was a little shocked. No, you played well, but like I think I won the singles match and we won the match, but that was just one of the matches our team lost that day.
Yeah.
And I just remember you were like so happy to see me. You were a little scrawnier then.
Yeah.
And I was like, who is that? I know that guy. I guess I know him. I'm sorry to say that.
No, it's all right, man. Again, like when I was getting my feet underneath me, I didn't start playing tennis till I was 14. So I really had a late start. But when I'm telling you your impact on me and a lot of Colorado tennis players because of the mindset, the presence that you guys were on that high school team, I don't believe my career would have been what it was without having a guy like Beau Berglund to look up to, man. So I appreciate that.
That's really nice to hear.
And what an unbelievable playing career that you had. And obviously the tour was something that you might have thought of. You could have had some more time there, but here you are as an actor and a tennis coach yourself now. What is more impactful to you, Beau? What you accomplished on the court as a player or what you're doing as a coach?
Oh, wow. They're two different things. What I accomplished for myself as a player was magnanimous to me just in my own personal journey and what I owe to myself and how I honored myself by working so hard and had the guts to go for it on several occasions. What I accomplished as a coach on a spiritual level, whatever your religion, just on a micro level, on a spiritual level. And I've been doing it long enough where I'm at about 10 years now in Seal Beach, Los Alamitos area. I've seen kids grow up being coached by me. I've had kids since they were 6 years old and now they're graduating from high school. I'm not their parent. I'm not their aunt or uncle. I have 1/10 of the influence of a parent or a sibling. But that 1/10, I see my influence in their life. That 1/10 of it. If they're like weekly with me every week as I'm coaching them their whole entire time growing up, I see definitely where they build resilience, self-confidence. There's this article I read about the different types of IQ. There's emotional IQ. There's intelligence IQ, which we all know that's the Einstein, there's social IQ, and there's adversity IQ. I see the difference I make in their adversity IQ, mainly. A little bit with IQ, thinking in the game, the fun and the strategy, but especially in the adversity IQ area, tennis is preparing you for life's ups and downs.
Yeah.
Especially kids that are so emotional and the loss feels so big. I'd say like any loss I had as a 12-year-old felt as bad as getting fired as an adult. That one loss. Anyway, like, cause you feel things such a bigger level as a child. So that's preparing your nervous system for life. And so I see that. And so that's way larger on a spiritual level than my individual accomplishments for sure. But my individual accomplishments also spiritually for me, those were huge too. They had a piece in making me feel good about myself and be in the position to coach others with the authority that I do on the subject.
It's well said. And the adversity piece, I can deeply relate to that because tennis was always a place for me that helped me be in a sanctuary that was much different than the chaos in my home life. I was a child of an alcoholic. I was overweight. My nickname was Big Teddy Bear, BTB, which is what birthed the BTB Project, because when I started coaching, I turned that acronym into an open-ended question. What are you built to be? What are you built to become? BTB.
I like that.
And just trying to take that adversity in my life and to be like a coach I never had. And you talked about some coaches with Dan Gonzalez and Brian Salazar. You've been around some just tremendous coaches in your life. And
I'm very fortunate.
And with that said, I do want to circle back to college and that memorable match, one that resonates with you, because without you experiencing what you're about to share in the story of the match, it compounds to being able to absolutely help another young man or another young woman in their career several years later because you're able to overcome adversity on that court. So college tennis match that you remember the most. What comes?
All right, before I tell my story about the match I remember the most, I just have to tell you, I applaud you for your journey. I had a lot of challenges growing up too. I don't want to get into. I was bullied in grade school. Tennis was and still is a safe haven for me. But to the tennis court is a place where I can find power no matter what's going on in my life. And I think you relate to that. And so I think we both one of the big reasons I coach and love coaching is giving back to the game, because the game helped me so much. And I know it did the same for you. So I just want to applaud you for how far you've come.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah. So look, we were at the conference championship. We were at Santa Clara. We were playing University of San Francisco in the first round. If you lose the first round, the rest of the time's a bummer. You got to play the backdrop for 5th place. Everybody wants to be in the top 4. Right. So there's 8 teams. And I think we were seeded 4 and they were seeded 5. So by no means a guarantee. It was 3-all. So it came down to my match. I was a junior. I was the upperclassman and the team captain. My team's relying on me, playing 3 singles, playing this guy named Axel from Norway, huge forehand. I was up 5-3, 40-15. I remember I was so nervous, my hand was shaking. I was like, what do I do? I don't even know how I serve. It's hiding it from the guy. I was like,
yeah, man.
I tell this as a coach too, because I want players to keep their head up on their serve and whatever. And my assistant coach at the time was telling me, yeah, keep your left arm up, keep your head up. So look, I had been kicking the ball to this guy's backhand the whole match and coming to net. That would be probably a go-to strategy on match point. But I was like, I got 2 match points. So on the first serve, why don't I kick it to his forehand just to see if I surprise him? It's a huge risk. If he hits that forehand, he probably hits a winner. Off a kick. It's going to be high forehand. But I was like, let's go for it. And I kept my hand up so well. So my teammates were over here to my right. And I specifically remember my doubles partner, Carlos. And I kept my head out. So basically, I juked him. Yep. He definitely saw the ball going over my head. He went for the runaround, and he got aced. Just because he was standing around his backhand. And I went to the forehand corner. And I kept my head up so well, I knew I'd won the point because Carlos was jumping up and down. Before I looked down at the ball, I noticed that I aced him. Like I saw that happen in the corner of my eye before I was like, huh? Oh, yes, I won. And that was the best. That was the best moment. The team needed me to win that match, and I did it.
I love that, because the ability to know the ball's coming off your strings like that as the server and know that it's just an automatic moment is incredibly gratifying.
Right. And if your hand's shaking, just serve it anyway. It's really not going anywhere.
No, that's true. And I think sometimes, going back to mindset, you can debilitate yourself with thinking about the handshake or whatnot. And like what your father's advice of going out and take a risk, I'm sure that tied into that match. And I want to button up this whole journey that we've been on, Beau, because something really resonated with me. One, your kind words about me and the adversity piece that you've been able to help a lot of students with. But I'm curious that as a coach, if you had an opportunity to go back to that 12, 13-year-old Beau Berglund in middle school, the kid that was in the midst of incredible adversity, being bullied, a word that is far often, I've just seen it too much. You see it online now, you see it in social media, and it's devastating, man. But with that said, here you are as a husband and looking to maybe have some kids too down the road, and been able to help a lot of kids and experience everything you experience. If you could go back, Beau, to that 12, 13-year-old self, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give him?
As a person, I would tell him, and if he's knowing that he's talking to older me, I would tell him, you're so much better than you think you are. As a tennis player, I would tell him, go get some special help on your forehand and backhand topspin from Nick Bollettieri or something. Like literally go to Florida and get a lesson.
Yeah. Fix
those topspin ground strokes, and then stick with Dan Gonzalez. And maybe Brian. Brian was good too. Brian helped me a lot after my injury. There's one coach, I'm not going to mention his name, I would say, don't. No.
Well, there's been a lot of tremendous Colorado tennis players, been able to, and fortunate to have a lot of them on the BTB project. Jeff Salzenstein, who had a tremendous career at Cherry Creek and then an All-American Stanford, and Luke and Clancy Shields from Grand Junction that are still coaching college tennis. Folks like yourself. I just think that Colorado tennis, especially in the era that we grew up in and the teams that you were on, I would say that it was probably the best level of high school boys tennis that I've seen generationally. And I just wanted to get your 2 cents.
We were deep.
Yeah.
As a state and as a section too. when you think about my age division, with Chad Harris and Dominic Kemp both being top 20 players, Bart Scott and Corey not falling that far after, 7 of the 8 players that made nationals were from Colorado. Greg, you don't even see that in Southern California every year, that all the good players come from here are one. And I have to give one player a little more credit than the rest. It's all about Chad Harris.
Yeah.
He was he was really good too. They remember that interview we had to play Chad in the semis or something for some reason. Somehow Brent Migo got to too. And we didn't, he's like, you have to beat Chad to win state.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. I don't care about taking second or third. It doesn't matter. You have to beat Chad to win state. But I think he was the catalyst that really pushed us everybody was pushed to be at his level. And so it can be one person that brings up the level of a whole group. And a lot of it had to do with John Benson and Team Colorado. And they put together that Team Colorado thing, which I didn't make the first year I applied either. You had to work for it to be in it. And that kind of put us together. That bred the competition and the camaraderie in that area. And I think that's what had to do with it. That's a special thing. It just takes a special player to motivate others.
1,000%. I often say on the BTB Project, Beau, that impossible is nothing. Knowing what you've experienced, how does that resonate with you?
I think you have to keep reminding yourself that. You have to keep reminding yourself that it can happen to you. You can accomplish your dreams.
Yeah.
And your dreams can change. But right now, it has a lot to do with my dream of making it as an actor. I can accomplish that. It can happen. You have to really believe it. And it's hard sometimes to let yourself be in the feeling of that. And I think it started with me. I dreamed I can make nationals like my dad, just to make it to Kalamazoo. And at that sectionals, I willed it. I was only ranked 12th going into the sectionals. I beat 3 or 4 guys in a row. And then I lost a close match to Corey Ross. I did that all in front of the people that were deciding the rankings at that point. And I really willed it in a tournament almost. That was definitely a dream for me. I would have been crushed if I didn't get it. And it also means when things are worse, don't quit. That was the last tournament before that decision got made. And only the top 8 were going to go. And there was a 9 and 10 that were very close to me, but I beat one of them that tournament, John Chamakun, and then I beat Ben Regan. So I finished better than the other guys. And it came down to the wire, and it happened for me. And that so you cannot give up on it. Don't let yourself give up on it. And that's totally within you.
Wise words.
That poem, don't quit. When things are the worst, just don't quit. You might just see with enough flow.
As a coach, that's one thing that we can't teach. We can't teach will. We can't teach effort. We can only hope to provide an environment of which a student feels comfortable enough to unleash that. And I think it's just tremendous, wise words. Beau Berglund, state champion, Colorado tennis icon, incredible career at LMU, actor, coach. I cannot thank you enough for joining me on the BTB Project.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Awesome, man. What a tremendous opportunity to sit down and talk with Beau Berglund and walk through his journey. There's so many takeaways from the conversation that can help you as the listener. Beau was able to find an incredible confidence and identity through the game of tennis, whether it was from the tough love of his older brother or the success of his dad winning 4 consecutive state championships. Tennis was in his blood. But more importantly, as he was able to find that confidence, he was able to pay it forward as a coach, giving back to kids in Southern California to help improve their game. And all of the accolades and things that he was able to accomplish, the camaraderie with his teammates, the relationships that he built, the stories that he will remember for the rest of his life is what truly has resonated with him and that he's most proud of. Listen, if Beau Berglund's story was something that inspired you, do me a favor and like and subscribe to the BTB Project. Better yet, send this message to a family member, friend, or colleague and tell them why it impacted you. It's stories like Beau that allow us to understand what we're truly capable of in each and every circumstance of our life, no matter the odds. As always, I'm proud of each and every one of you. And until next time, take care.